It's natural for humans to wonder what their purpose is, to wonder how can I serve my fellow humanity by doing something that I both excel at and that brings me fulfillment. People wonder, like, how do I get this perfect thing that I'm supposed to be doing? How do I figure out what that is? How do I go about doing that? And for many of us, we've fallen into the illusion that we're not already living purposefully. Now, it's important to live from a place of purpose, from a place of direction. Because if we don't, we just sort of get pulled around by society. We get thrown into this and thrown into this idea and sent from place to place until ultimately society finds a purpose for us. So that's why a lot of people, especially the more awakened ones, are always looking for, like, what can I do? Why am I here? What's the meaning behind this? Because those of us that are more on the awakened side of things, we don't want to fit into this system because we can see the flaws with it. We can see how it's not working out. So therefore, we have this natural drive within us to do something to change things. And it makes us wonder, what is my purpose? Now, purpose is not something that's so one-dimensional, because we have many purposes, but some of them are sort of sub-purposes. And then oftentimes we have things that are closer to the core of who we actually are. Now let me try to explain this with this metaphor. Imagine a Venn diagram, right? You have the two circles and then you have the circle in the center, where you have these two outer circles where it could be saying left, right, and then the center circle would be middle. That center circle is where left and right, they coincide, but it's neither left or right because it's the center, right? Now imagine you had a Venn diagram with the central circle, and then you had external circles all around that Venn diagram. And these could be all sorts of various things, which would talk about our sub-purposes in life, right? Maybe you had a certain thing you were passionate about when you were growing up, and then when you grew up, you kind of, maybe you didn't stop doing it completely, but maybe it just didn't fit with you as much as it did anymore. It began to dissolve because maybe it played out its course in your life, where, like I said, it's still present in the middle circle, but it's something that you no longer see it as the center because you already went through that. Now these can be considered sub-purposes because at a certain point in our life, it served the purpose of growth and expansion for us in one way or another. It gave us the experiences we needed to have in order to move through that and ultimately recognize that maybe it wasn't like the central thing, maybe it wasn't the most important thing to you, but maybe you still love that thing. Maybe it's still something that's a part of your life, but now you just recognize that, okay, this is like a hobby, right? It's something that maybe you recognize that it's not primal directive. It's not purpose. So within this, we go through life having several purposes. Maybe it just changes over time, but eventually each of these sub-purposes lead us to a more concrete identity about who we actually are and what it is that we actually need to be doing. Now, purpose, it doesn't need to be something super grandiose and super incredible. Maybe it is. Maybe you're supposed to lead people. Maybe you're supposed to make art. Maybe you're supposed to design, like, technology or whatever it might be. Maybe that is your purpose. And the way I say supposed to, what I mean is, like, what would actually fit with you? What you'd actually excel at and you could actually make a difference is. Maybe your purpose is something super grandiose, but there's also a level of, maybe you're just supposed to provide. Maybe you're supposed to have a family and you're supposed to take care of people. Those sorts of things. It can all fit in, and it doesn't necessarily mean like this one singular thing, like this is my purpose and I write out everything else. Some people do live like that and it works for them because they are just like solely focused on that thing and they don't have this wide array of ideas and purposes around them. But I also want to point out that if you do have many things that you're interested in, many things that you like to do, don't necessarily feel like you need to hone in on one of those things. You need to get rid of the rest. Recognize that they're all a part of you in one way or another. And the more that you try to fight that, the more that you're actually going against what it is that is your purpose. So to know your purpose, it's really just to go through life and do the things that light you up. Go and take action on the things that excite you and the things that send you in a direction where you feel like you're making personal progress. Even if it doesn't reflect that way necessarily in society, go the direction that excites you and that feels like real progress and gives you that sense of like waking up during the day and feeling like you have something to do. Because a lot of people in this world, and this isn't black and white either, but a lot of people make their job their purpose. They go get hired for a company and they work for this company for, we've all seen it, for the whole 40 years, the 9 to 5 thing, and this is their purpose. They pay their bills, they take care of their home, and ultimately they come home and they, watch TV and they go about it. But that's because they feel fulfilled by the fact that I have some sort of purpose. I have something that makes, like, I'm taking care of my business. Okay, a lot of the world, there's some people this works for. They were meant to just sustain and they were meant to just go about the process and have their job be their purpose. But for a lot of us, we know that's not enough. We know it has to come from something more internal. It has to be something more intrinsic, because we just can't fit into a system like that. And that's why, like I said at the beginning of this video, we're always looking for, like, what should I be doing? What can I be doing that's gonna not only be able to serve my fellow mankind, but also give me the life that I want and set me up to where I don't have to be living in this slave matrix, essentially, right? And there's deeper levels to this. The deeper you get to know yourself, the deeper you go through phases of your own development, learning about yourself, experimenting with things, the more you're gonna figure out who you are and what's actually important to you and how you can actually utilize whatever that skill set is out in the world, right? We all show up here with a unique vibration, a unique energy, a unique signature, if you will. And to hone into that signature, to take the layers off of it and ultimately find like what that real true spark is what's gonna lead you to everything that you want. Now, like I said, don't fixate so much on trying to figure out, like, what is it? Is it this? Is it that? Because then you're gonna get your mind involved. The thing is, like, the things that are actually meant for you, you don't have to try to be good at them. It will take time, of course, to develop skills and work at that thing. I'm not saying you can be lazy and just be like a mega genius at whatever it is that you choose to do. Maybe you are at that level, but what I'm saying is it's necessary to put work into whatever it is that you're doing, to improve at the craft, to work your way up and become whatever you want to become with it. But when it comes down to it, chasing after it and trying to like conceptualize exactly what it is that you think you are is not the way to actually become what you actually are, because you're already it. Do you see what I'm saying? The more you try to conceptualize it, the more you're putting layers between you and yourself, because you're already it. Maybe you just haven't found it yet. Maybe you just haven't found the way that you naturally flow. Maybe it doesn't make sense to you yet. Maybe it doesn't make sense to others. But you know that when you do whatever that thing is, there's a certain magic to it where it's effortless. It works out. And like I said, this doesn't mean you have to give up other things that you like. Your hobbies, your interests, they all are a part of you. They all are aspects that develop you in a way that are going to lead you further down the path of discovering your greater purpose in life. So take a breath, relax, recognize that when you're ready to do what it is that you need to do, you'll be doing it. And it'll come naturally. And oftentimes too, there's a sort of negative imprint. And here, I want to explain this well. There's a sort of maybe negative things that you experienced in your childhood, negative things that you experienced growing up. You became the opposite of that as you aged, as you matured, as you got older. So this negative imprint that might have been left, you figured out the solution to that problem. There's this saying, I don't know who said this, but essentially your message was your mess. See the word mess and message? So it essentially means like a lot of us went through troubles. We went through trials in our life in order to overcome them, to find the solutions for these trials, for these difficulties. We were able to overcome them because we had to figure out how to overcome them for ourselves. Now we can help others overcome whatever that is. So your mess becomes your message. The negative imprint that maybe was left on you when you were younger becomes the place where you can shine the light the brightest, simply because you went through that experience. So recognize that you do have a purpose. You do have a place, and you do have something that you could give the world that is totally and completely unique to you. And it's going to take time to find that. It's going to take time to develop that. And often you might feel the most resistance to doing whatever that thing is because it came from a negative place, because it involves you really shining your light into those dark places and becoming the bright star that you are. But that's how it happens. You know, the brightest stars shine in the darkest night. And that's what it's about. Recognize this contrast. Recognize that it's within you, and your story is what you've built your life on. I like the word story too, because we think of like stories in a building where they're just levels that are stacked on top of each other, and we say your story. You built your layers, you built the layers, and you developed your life through those stories. You elevated. So with that, my friends, I hope this makes sense. I hope this is helpful to you. Take a breath, enjoy your life, and just focus on doing the things that light you up. Focus on who you are and why you're that way, and know that you do have value. You have value you could add to people's lives, and they need you. But don't be in a rush. Everything will happen when it's time, and just enjoy your life in the meantime. That's what it's all about. If you don't know what it is, then your purpose is to enjoy your life. Your purpose is to do the best that you can and enjoy the things that you enjoy, because that's meaning. That is meaning for you. There's no meaning to this experience other than what meaning we give it. So give it a meaning. Try things, experiment, and everything will fall into place. All right? Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. And until next time, take care.